Hello everybody, how are you tonight? Welcome to our Cambridge, Toefl and Ielts certification classes. My name is Rodrigo and I'm officially a Cambridge examiner for the speaking part of the test, and tonight I prepared a distinguished class for you which includes environmental keywords. And why have I chosen that? Basically, because all international English tests demand a lot of environmental words, such as rainforests, and etc. and etc. So, just before we start our class, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please click on the link below and make sure you get all my tips for both vocabulary and grammar next time. Alright? Shall we start? This is a quite long class because we need to learn a lot of different terms, okay? So, let's start. First is the verb to ail, that basically means to be ill or to cause something to be ill. As you can see in the picture, the trees are dying, okay? Example number 1. The huge trees had been ailing for years before they were cut down. So, in other words, they've been languishing for years, alright? Second example. We are the reason why our environment is ailing, why our environment is dying, is getting ill, okay? What's ailing Indian farmers? Many of them are poor. Due to this, many times in the country, many farmers' movements have cropped up. Thus, they've been raising their voice against the unequal distribution of land in order to find a solution, okay? So in all the three examples, to ail means to be ill or to cause to be ill, alright? I'm going to give the examples a bit fast tonight because there are many different terms. But if you need any further explanation, please leave your comments below. Then I promise I'm going to answer all of them at my earliest convenience, okay? So let's see the second one. Biodegradable. Basically that means to be able to decay naturally and in a way that's not harmful to the environment, okay? Biodegradable. So, first example. Incineration with energy recovery is usually considered a means of diverting biodegradable municipal waste from landfills, okay? So it's not harmful to the city. All our products are biodegradable. That's great, very short example. And besides using biodegradable raw material, products are not tested on animals and the packing is made of recycled material. So they're not harmful to the environment. That's what biodegradable is all about. Great. Next word. Catalytic converter. Again, catalytic converter. It's exactly this device that you can see in the picture here. Basically, it prevents the atmosphere from being polluted with toxic gases, alright? So a catalytic converter is formally an exhaust emission control device that reduces toxic gases and pollutants in exhaust gas from an internal combustion engine into less toxic pollutants by catalyzing a redox reaction. It's very formal, okay? But I've already explained to you in an easier manner, okay? So let's see the examples. Number 1. Since 1993, catalytic converters have been compulsory in Britain. So they're mandatory, you must use them in Britain. It's the law, okay? The law is in force since 1993. Second example. Today, the controlled three-way catalytic converter is taken for granted in any gasoline engine. In other words, everybody in the world believes that if you have a gasoline engine, there will be a catalytic converter in it, okay? In the last example, as older car models are more polluting, the older the engine, as an example, having a carburetor and no catalytic converter, the greater the environmental benefits are ethanol when compared to gasoline, okay? So that's the device that prevents the environment from getting too polluted. Great, let's move. Cooling agent. That is a chemical added to an explosive during manufacture to suppress or inhibit the flame produced in blast. So basically when there's an explosion, there could be flame everywhere and the cooling agent will prevent that from happening, okay? Cooling agents are expensive in Brazil. Of course, everything is expensive in Brazil, right? Second example, in order to use as a proper and efficient cooling agent for fish, it has to be ground in small pieces to be effective. So again, cooling agents, they can come in different shapes, like that is foam, there are pieces that need to be grounded, that's powder, okay? So you can see here in this drawing, alright? And the last example, a very technical one. The headers connect the tubes, thus allowing the cooling agent to circulate through them, okay? Allowing to pass through, okay? To circulate through them. Great, let's see the next word. To die out, that's an extremely important, paramount phrasal verb. To die out basically means to become less common gradually and finally stop existing. Alright? So, example number 1. Animals are dying out far more often than you might think. So we don't see that, but animals are disappearing from Earth. That's what it means. Second example. In some cases, the climatic conditions may not be suitable, or the local flora and fauna may be more resilient, and the non-native species may die out. So they may disappear. Okay? And the last example. In many cases, these non-native species adapt poorly to their new surroundings and they rapidly die out. They rapidly disappear. In that case, not gradually, but very rapidly. Because in this case, I changed the adverb. Okay? Great, let's move. Droughts. So that's a long period when there is little or no rain at all, like the northeast in Brazil. Okay? So first example, drought had ruined the crops year after year. So in other words, we could not plant, we could not eat, no vegetables, no orchards because of drought. Second example, during times of drought, susceptibility to other infectious diseases such as cholera and diarrhea is increased. Okay? So susceptibility to other infectious diseases increased a lot because of drought. Okay? And when I needed help because the crop was destroyed by drought, Gilbert gave me a piece of bread and a cup of wine every day. So he was trying to help me during the drought period. Okay? So I didn't die of hunger or of being thirsty. Okay? Great, let's move words. Dumping ground. That's the place everybody throws their trash, such as electronic devices, old stuff, it's horrible. Because people use canals and everything in the city as a dumping ground. That should be prohibited. Well, it is prohibited, but it's very often the officers don't see us doing that. That's what happens. That's why we don't get taxes or we don't get fines or tickets. Okay. So let's see the first formal explanation. A dumping ground is a place where something that's not wanted is left. So you don't want it anymore, you just leave it. So city canals are often used as dumping grounds. Horrible. So many world leaders, it's apparently acceptable to use Africa as a dumping ground. So, according to many world leaders, it's acceptable to throw their trash in Africa. That's crazy, isn't it? So, our last example, number 3. The coasts of France are not there to become a dumping ground for European maritime traffic, nor receive munitions. Again, it shouldn't be a place to be a dumping ground. It should be a place for you to go there, have a great time, take pictures. That's a lovely place, the coast of France. Alright? Great, let's move. Endangered. That word usually collocates with species, but sometimes it comes on its own. So let's see some different examples. It's formally in danger of being harmed, of being lost, or of being unsuccessful. Okay? Example number 1. The sea turtle is an endangered species. So the turtles are disappearing from Earth. Mixed forests contain over half of all Spain's recorded plant species, including many that are threatened or endangered. So half of Spain's recorded plant species. We're talking millions of different species, okay? And the last example. With what I have learned about the process that takes place in the brain in reading comprehension, I see the future as highly endangered, okay? So the future is being harmed gradually until one day there's no future. Basically, that's what it means, okay? So let's see our next word. To erode, that's a verb, right? Formally speaking, that means to be rubbed away gradually. That's what causes abrasion. So you can see in the picture, that's what happens to rocks, okay? So in most coasts you can see these things happening, okay? And that's what formed the Grand Canyon. Let's see the first example. It took about 67,000 years to erode the Grand Canyon. Wow, 67,000 years, okay? Second example. The ocean waves aren't very powerful, but after slamming over and over against the rocks, they erode little by little the coast until they open their way inland. So until they enter through the land, okay? And the last example. Poor family units tend to depend for their daily subsistence on activities that have a direct environmental impact, such as inhabiting and cultivating areas with a propensity to erode. So a propensity to have abrasion. Okay? Fantastic. So let's move words. Exhaust fumes. Okay? So those are gases ejected from an engine as waste products. For example, car engine, motorbikes, engines, etc., etc. So, over the past month, officers have been stopping vehicles in London to test exhaust fumes to see if they're eliminating too many gases. Too much in this case, okay? Because you cannot count the gas. The tunnel effect. Vehicles in front of you cause an exhaust fume tunnel. Okay? Let's call it the tunnel effect. It's a technical expression. And the last example. The exhaust fume concentration there is significantly higher than outside. So that is a place with a lot of fume, a lot of toxic gases, such as this one. So that's the fume, okay? The gases which are ejected from an engine, alright? Now, the next word is fume, but not ejected from cars or motorbikes. So, the part that decomposes into air is a vapor of fume, but not air that's fit for breathing, so you cannot breathe, okay? Example number 1. Workers are exposed to fumes from asphalt every day, okay? Number 2. One step we have taken is the use of electronically powered forklift trucks which do not produce any emissions or dangerous fumes. So they are safe, okay? And the last example. With non-toxic biodegradable properties, does not cause fumes or spoil paintwork, and it's safe to use in any work environment. So that's very safe because it doesn't cause fumes. It doesn't eliminate all the toxic gases into atmosphere. Okay? Great, let's move. Now, the greenhouse effect. Every year in Toefl test we see the greenhouse effect. So the formal explanation is when the Earth's atmosphere becomes thick with gases and substances which trap the sun's radiation make the Earth warmer. Okay? So if it traps the sun radiation, it's going to make the Earth, our planet, much, much warmer. That's the greenhouse effect. Okay? So let's see the first example. Well, the pictures explain for themselves, but let's see the examples. Number 1, the greenhouse effect is the rising temperature caused by gases in the atmosphere. Number 2, our planet could have ended up in a situation of runaway greenhouse effect like Venus, the other planet. couldn't survive because of the greenhouse effect. So as far as we know, there is no life over there. Okay? And the last one, in addition to destroying biodiversity, the burning emits greenhouse effect gases. Alright? Great, so 3 examples about greenhouse effects. And you know exactly how to use them. Next one, hardest hit. So when you're profoundly striked or affected in a negative way. If you hardest hit, we are using as a verb, okay? You profoundly strike or affect in a negative way. So example number 1. Our town was hardest hit by last year's earthquake. So you see what happened to the town here? The earthquake destroyed the house. Second example. The president made available some aid from other member states in the form of electricity generators for use in the hardest hit parts of the country. And the last example. Climate change will be an important topic, and the resolutions rightly state that it's the poor who will be hardest hit by climate change. So usually poor people are the ones who suffer most. Okay? Basically because they build their houses in forbidden places, close to the sea, on top of valleys and mountains, and they always suffer. Okay? Great. Next, to harm. It's a basic verb, right? That basically means to physically injure, damage, or jeopardize. And we're talking about the environment. So you jeopardize the environment when you harm the environment. Okay? Here you can see like a burned forest. Okay? Destroyed forest. So pollution can harm animals and the environment. Second example. This could be a substance or a mixture which causes harm to human health or the environment. And the last one, it's a natural product. It doesn't harm animals such birds I have in my backyard. Okay? So all the examples are very simple. So basically to harm means to damage, to jeopardize, to injure physically. Okay? Great. Next, heat wave. So formally speaking, it's a prolonged period of abnormally hot weather. So months after months after months of hot weather, no rain, and we have the heat wave. Okay. So let's see the first example. Slow down and avoid strenuous activities if a heat wave is happening. So you shouldn't do like external activities if a heat wave is happening, because you're gonna burn yourself, you're going to dehydrate, and you can end up in hospital. That's basically what it means. Second example. What were the individuals affected by the problems resulting from the fires and the heat wave to do? Okay? So in this case we use as a question. And the last example. Weather officials attribute the heat wave to climate change, which has delayed the rainy season that normally begins in May. So you can see the heat wave here. A very, very strong sun, very high temperature. You're feeling the waves that dehydrates people. Some people even die. We hear a lot of stories of parents who forget their babies and their pets inside the car when they go to work, and they suffer from a heat wave and they die. So it's really, really dangerous. It could be hazardous as well. Okay. Next, insulation. So basically insulation is to use material to stop heat, to stop sound, or stop electricity from escaping. So for example, if you want to build a recording studio because you're a singer, professional singer, then you need to insulate the place because you don't want sound escaping from that place. You understand? So you can prevent heat, sound, or electricity from escaping. So you can see in the photos here. First example, often glass fiber is used as roof insulation. That's like the #1 material. To save energy, a house must have good insulation. And the last example, the degree of sound insulation depends on the composition as a whole. Okay? We can all do insulation in our homes. It's not cheap. Like in my country, it's extremely expensive, but you save money in the longer term. Okay? So that was insulation. What else? Now to menace. Again, to menace. Menace means to threaten, especially in a malignant or hostile manner. Okay? So let's see the first example. Hurricane Hugo menaced the US coast for 7 days. Wow, so it was in the coast for 7 days in a hostile manner, okay? Like damaging the place. Regional peace and security cannot be preserved without creative efforts commensurate with the dangers that menace them. Okay? And the last example. But for Brazil, all the other South American countries are making progress against this deadly menace. When I say but in the beginning of the sentence, that means except. So except for Brazil, okay, that's exactly what I mean. All the other South American countries are making progress against this deadly menace, but Brazil is not making progress. That's basically what I mean by that, okay? So, let's move. Oil slick. Again, oil slick. So that's a film or layer of oil floating on an expanse of water, especially one that has leaked or been discharged from a ship. So a lot of ocean animals die, such as fish, whales, sharks, alright? So you see the ocean with all the oil there? It's called oil slick. That's the formal name. So large oil slicks were found near the coast. Second example, I hope that the winds will not allow the oil slick to reach their coast. So if it has leaked in the middle of the ocean, perhaps the winds will prevent that from getting to the coast, okay? And storm and oil slick has created a movement of model solidarity, not only in France, but also outside our boundaries, okay? So this is an example taken out of France. Great. Next, precipitation. Let's repeat, precipitation. It basically means that the rain, the snow, sleet or hail that falls to the ground, okay? This picture is not so big. I'm gonna try to make it a little bigger for you. Okay, rain, sleet, hail, and snow. So, first example, rain, snow, hail, and sleet are types of precipitation. The recent rainfall led to an increase in precipitation. And the last one, precipitation, is forecast to fall by 30% in the central part of the country during this period. Okay? So we saw the precipitation. It basically represents what falls to the ground, which is rain, snow, sleet, or hail. Okay? Next, remedial action. That's basically a corrective action that we take to improve the environment. Okay? So it's used to improve a bad situation. First example, the Great Lakes Remedial Action Plan Program was created in 1987. Second example, the preventive and remedial action may include interim protective measures when the potential threat to safety or the environment is immediate. And the last example, the factory took remedial action after the workplace accident. So basically they took a corrective action. They corrected what was damaged, what was injured, what had affected the environment. That's basically what it means, okay? Next one, sewage. So sewage is a waste matter such as water or human urine or solid waste, okay? That's sewage. So you can see in the picture, it's very easy to spot, right? In your language, whatever language it is, that's sewage. So sewage, used water, comes from factories and households. Second example, green cities can construct advanced sewage systems that allow for nutrient recycling to ensure rainfall collection. And the last example, Sewage water is kept on the site and released directly after cleaning onto the surface of the environment. Again, I'm sorry, I'm doing it a little bit faster because there are so many terms and words and I didn't want this class to be very long. But if you have any doubts, please make a comment, leave a comment below, and I promise I will answer all the comments, okay? Next, sludge, or also known as mud, or very informally, there's a slang which we call goo, okay? It's a sludge, okay? That's a very soft, wet soil, or even a substance that looks like this, okay? But that's soil, alright? You see? Very wet, very soft, like that's why we call goo, you know? It's an onomatopoeia, it sounds like the thing, you know? So sludge is often used on agricultural land. Second example, the treatment of sewage sludge protects the environment. And we have programs to remove oil, dirt and sludge from all types of refinery equipment. So all the three examples using sludge, alright? Next is trawler. Again, trawler. That's a fishing boat used for trawling, okay? For fishing. So trawlers are not permitted on the lake. If you see them there, they're gonna get fined. Number 2, as an old trawler is endangered as an old oil tanker. Okay? Sorry, I'm going to read that again. As old trawler is as dangerous as an old oil tanker. Okay? It's very dangerous, a comparison, as dangerous as. And in 2019, Canadian inspectors had apparently boarded a Spanish freezer trawler, which was also finishing in international waters. Okay? So that's a trawler, that fishing boat used for trawling, basically capturing a lot of fish at once. Okay? Now, unleaded. Again, unleaded, basically without lead. But formally speaking, we say without added tetraethyl lead. That's the technical chemical term. Okay? So unleaded petrol is less harmful to the environment because it hasn't got lead. Okay? Taxation of unleaded petrol and gas oil to be discussed. That's a headline in a newspaper. Okay? So they will discuss if they will charge less taxes on unleaded petrol. And bioethanol is a high-octane fuel, sufficiently higher than conventional unleaded gas. If you can compare the prices here, like the super unleaded costs more than the unleaded. So that is unleaded, unleaded plus, super unleaded, premium plus. So they have different names for the fuel you put in your car. Alright? And now the last of the day, waste heat. So, waste heat is a heat rejected or escaping from furnace or various types like coke ovens, cement kilns, or steel furnace after it has served its primary purpose. So that's a waste, okay? So we can see the picture, but again the picture is very small here. I'm just gonna try to increase a bit. You see, waste heat versus greenhouse warming. Just so you have an idea of what exactly I'm talking about. In the other picture there, waste heat recovery. So they're trying to recover, to reuse that. So, the use of waste heat will reduce electricity consumption. So that's a great thing for the environment because you want to reduce electricity consumption. Second example, most of the waste heat from industrial processes could be recovered and used for local power generation by steam turbines. And the last example, we supply the fans to provide air for the waste heat recovery steam generators needed when operating supplementary or auxiliary mode. So again, what's waste heat? Is all the heat that's being escaped or rejected from furnaces, okay? So, those were the words I prepared for you tonight. Those were keywords to learn for Toefl, Cambridge, and Ielts certificates. And please, in order to memorize the words, I always ask you to find a context that fits well to you, because you need to remember, you need to use association. In my case, I always use mnemonics, which basically I associate a word to a color, or to a smell, or to a situation. Because if I give a list of random words, you'll probably forget everything by next week. So please get those words. They all belong to the same area. They all talk about environment, but use some association, alright? So thank you so much for being with me all this time. Please, if you liked my class, click like and make sure you subscribe to my channel so you get all my tips for both grammar and vocabulary next time. Okay guys? So thank you very much and see you next time. Cheers! Bye bye!